I just cannot, like, I can't fathom how after Lagway went out, Florida was in that game until there were 4 minutes to go. That makes no sense to me.
You know what was really telling to me, Andy, was when Lagway went out, it was, you know, you got the sense that Florida just wanted to get to the locker room, right? Like,
yeah,
they just wanted to get to the locker room. And then Aiden Warner's in there, and they're running down the clock right before halftime, and they're just trying to get out of the half, and they move all the way down the field into field goal range.
Right. They kick a field goal.
They weren't even trying to score. And it's like, Georgia, wake up. Like, it's like, it was crazy. Okay, so let me ask you this.
I texted you. I said, you're going to get a humdinger of a Kirby Smart halftime speech if somebody's nice enough to leak it to us. But if he had one, it didn't work because they were just as flat in the second half. So, yeah, I'm worried about Georgia. I had an interesting question on Twitter. Somebody asked me, do I think that Ohio State should be ranked ahead of Georgia in the rankings? And I thought about that for a second because I was actually working on bracketology, or at least formatting the file. And so I was thinking in terms of bracketology. I'm like, well, they can't be because of Oregon. We're saying Oregon's going to win the Big Ten. And so if we think Georgia's going to win the SEC, then Ohio State can't be. No, well, in that situation, Ohio State can't be seeded ahead of them. It doesn't mean they can't be ranked ahead of them. Mm-hmm. And I do think Ohio State right now should be ranked ahead of Georgia.
Well, I mean, Ohio State's resume took a big step forward. Now, you might be a Penn State hater and think that wasn't really a top 3 win, but they just beat a team on the road that was a top 3 team. So
right. both of them have a loss against a good conference opponent on the road, and both of them have a win against a previously undefeated conference opponent on the road.
Ohio State's loss is against a team that's undefeated and number 1 in the polls. So,
right. And Georgia's loss is to a team that lost to Vanderbilt.
So, yeah, I guess. I don't know how much sleep you would lose over that for the time being. But I have Ohio State too in the top 10 I put on 3.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's a very hot take. And look, they may see each other anyway. But yeah, Georgia, I would worry right now. Worry this week because Ole Miss may get some guys back. And if they've figured some stuff out, that game in Oxford is going to be very tough. But you mentioned you want to talk about Billy Napier. So let's have that conversation now before we move on to Ole Miss.
Yes, please. Florida's offensive line and defensive line was winning in the trenches against Georgia. Billy Napier's job is to field a team that belongs on the same field as Georgia. Billy Napier had a team that looked like it could have potentially even won against Georgia with a quarterback that was not ready to play and shouldn't have been on the field. Georgia has been playing its ass off under Billy Napier for the last 6 weeks.
You mean Florida?
What did I say? Florida State?
You said Georgia.
Oh, it's midnight.
It's very late. Yes.
Any change in temperament, thought in Gainesville about what to do with? Because
I think.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Andy, real quick. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
I find myself, and I don't know why, because I've never spent time with this person, but I root for Billy Napier. I feel for the man. And he's got a lot of tough breaks. Losing Lagway in that game, it's what else does this guy gotta deal with? It's just I'd keel over if I were in his position.
Go to PaniniAmerica.net if you want to start collecting. We've been ripping packs all week. The best sports cards in America. They've got these incredible, series with an NIL where they've got Arch Manning. Ari's got a Caleb Downs autograph card. I think he's gone to go get a card now. We pulled in a Rondé Gadsden, the second autograph card out of a pack yesterday. He's playing for Syracuse right now. So go to PaniniAmerica.net. You can look up your team. You can get a team set. Well, I think the way his players are playing for him says a lot about him. And I think that's why you find yourself rooting for him. I do sense a change in sentiment toward him because of what you just said. Not because of in the chat, We got somebody saying Napier's still tired of moral victories. And I get that. And I understand the Florida fans who feel that way. But Ari's point is valid. His job is to create a team that can compete on the field with the Georgias and the Texases of the world. Now they're going to go play Texas. If they do this again, and look, I'm not expecting them to win, but if they're in a game with Texas in Austin with a preferred walk-on transfer from Yale at quarterback, that's pretty damn good. Now, I have
is
seen
Lagway done for the year? Is that just
it's
out there
a
now?
hamstring, which those usually take a few weeks, and there's not a lot of weeks left.
Yeah.
So I'm not. I don't think you should assume he's coming back, because again, that's that type of soft tissue injury. Like you can easily re-injure it, that sort of thing.
And much better than an ACL though, in terms of like long term. Yeah,
exactly. But the question, the big question, obviously, is if you fire Billy Napier, would you lose DJ Lagway also? And it's a legitimate question. But I think if you're Florida, you watch what happens these next few games. If they still look like they belong on the field with these teams they're playing, which is going to be Texas, LSU, and Ole Miss, the next 3 games, then you do have to think about keeping him. Because he is doing the thing you hired him to do at that point. Now, I've seen some complaints about, hey, how do you not have a third quarterback? Because remember, DJ Lagway was the second quarterback. Graham Mertz got hurt first. How do you not have a third quarterback who's ready? And so Georgia has a third scholarship quarterback. That would be Jaden Rashada, which, again, if he'd come into the Florida game, that would have been just mind blown. But most teams do not have a third quarterback that they're super confident in. So I'm not going to kill him on that one. But I want to see them play the next few weeks. And if they continue to look like they should look in the trenches, then I will probably say I was wrong, because I said this needs to end. Like, you got to do it. And I think, I know for a fact that there were major donors who were like, I'm done, I'm out, but they might be coming back around too, because they're seeing the same thing you are. I don't know if that's going to happen. It may be that this was a rivalry game. They did it everything they could, and it wasn't good enough. And then now they go to Texas and they get their doors blown off. But if they don't, it's probably worth thinking about. And I'll say I was wrong. Like, I'd imagine a lot of other people will say they were wrong, because I don't think anybody wants to see somebody get fired.
Yeah. Also, too, the schedule. Not a lot of Hugh Freeze opportunities there to,
same schedule next year. So it ain't getting any better.
Yeah.
But that's the other piece of it. If you don't think the right replacement is out there, the surefire replacement, and things are getting better in the areas that were the problem, then you also need to think about that too.
The firing window.
Yeah. So we'll find out. I want to watch that Texas game. I want to see what they do. How do they look? How do they come out? Do they continue to get better in the trenches? Do they get physically dominated? Because if they continue to get better, then he's making a very good case.